This is the Spurs POSTCAST, your instant game reaction for the San Antonio Spurs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, in a season that's continued to find new ways to rewrite and revisit history, it's only fitting that when they go out to one of the most beautiful places in the world, New York City, in a winter, depending on who you're talking to, that things get even that much more special, and they close the month in as grand a fashion as possible. Welcome into the Spurs Postcast right here on Locked On Spurs. Of course, part of the number one sports podcast network in the world, the Locked On Podcast Network. He is NBA champion Devin Brown. I'm Casey Viera. The Spurs have won 11 in a row, and the San Antonio Spurs went perfect in February for the first time since 2014. On a night tonight, they take care of the Brooklyn Nets, 126-110. Seemed like it was going to be a breeze. Then it wasn't. Then ultimately they woke up a little bit, put the foot on the gas, and as a result, they move to 7-0 on this rodeo road trip. And not much more you can complain about after that, my friend.
No, Casey. It was I don't even know. I know you're from up near that way, but it was a quiet night for the most part in New York, but that's not a thing because New York is one of the busiest cities in the world. So, but yeah, let's break it down. Let's talk about it because good tonight.
This is what you'll be talking about.
Got a little trigger happy there. Sorry, I'm pumped
up. You're good.
All right, so the Spurs open up the game on a 36-22 run, or at the end of the first quarter, 36-22. Keep in mind, this is a matchup of the third best team in the Spurs and the third worst team in the league in the Brooklyn Nets. And when they met in the third game of the season, Brooklyn, again, went down by 20 plus, but ultimately, if you might remember, took the lead in the fourth quarter. It ended up being a game one that Spurs ultimately prevailed. And it kind of faced a little bit of a similar template tonight. It started off great for the Spurs. Stephon Castle had 13 of the first 25, I believe. Was off to a great start. San Antonio up by 14, go up by 22 in the second quarter on the back of Julian Champagnie. Fantastic. More on him in a minute. He had 19, up by 15 at the break. Another slow start in the first half for Victor Wembanyama, only 1 of 5 from the field. They go into half up 15. They come out on the other side of the break, and they are sleepwalking through this thing. They are not going through the motions, and we are saying, oh, here's another prime example of them playing down to the opposition because it looked everything in the part. Brooklyn cuts it down to a 6-point lead within the first couple minutes of the third quarter. Mitch takes a timeout. De'Aaron Fox, up to that 9:56 mark in the third quarter, had only attempted one field goal, had one field goal attempt into the third quarter. He proceeds to make 4 of his next 5. Keldon Johnson comes in, rattles off 7 of his own, and next thing you know, the Spurs, they're up 20 like they should be in that type of situation after 3 quarters of play, and ultimately take care of business the rest of the way from there and route to a 126-110 victory. Julian Champagnie, the high man tonight, 26 points, 6 of 9 from 3. Another slow night shooting for Victor Wembanyama, 12 points, 8 assists, 5 blocks, but only 3 of 9 from the field. Fox goes for 14 and 6. Castle 18 and 5 as the Spurs move to 43 and 16, a game and a half back of Oklahoma City for the top spot in the West, a game back of Detroit for the best record in the league, and for the third time ever, they go perfect in a month. The only other time that's happened was March, 2 other times, I should say, of 10-plus games. 2014, they went 16-0 in March. 1996, they went 16-0 in March. Not much to complain about with the exception of that third quarter, especially when the night ends with you chalking up things on the right side of things.
Right, yeah, San Antonio just, went in and, went to work today, and you're just better than the other basketball team. Once the ball was thrown up, San Antonio proceeded to play well. Like you said, got off to a great start. I think the fans were ready for Victor to, get a dunk or a big block or something like that. So, he got off to a slow start, and Fox as well. But, the other guys around him, Vassell, Juju, Keldon. All these guys are just stepping up, and that's what you love to see. Harper. I can go on and on, but that's what you love to see. That's how deep this San Antonio team is. Just a couple of things stat-wise. They got out rebounded, but they on the road, you get to the free throw line 27 times. That cancels that out. 13 steals. All right. That's going to make up for my other stat I had here. Not getting out rebounded. It was something. 8 turnovers. That looks good. The 24 fast break points. So really, when you look at the stats, the Spurs were all over the place. A lot of good, a lot of bad. But at the end of the day, they just outworked the Nets, and they were able to come out with a victory.
Yeah, basically 4-to-1 assist turnover ratio because they had 36 on top of that, 36 assists on top of that as well. I'll tell you what, with the exception of Dallas and with the exception of Houston, very rarely do you see buildings where Spurs fans and this is the Victor Wembanyama effect, take over a building. And outside of the Houston, Dallas, generally for the most part, the amount of Spurs jerseys that they showed in the building, I was like, man. I mean, I know the Nets aren't good, and that's probably not the hardest ticket to get, especially when the next door neighbors over there at Madison Square Garden are, the priciest ticket in the sport.
Right.
But Spurs fans did turn out tonight, and they were vocal, so good job on them doing that. Also a good job for a couple of local guys. One you might know about, Julian Champagnie, but he was not alone in a big-time showing in their first homecoming since coming into the league.
It's time to reveal who made the biggest under-the-radar impact with today's X Factor.
Yes, Champagnie from Brooklyn. We've heard that. We know that at length. 6 of 9 from 3 last time he played a team from his hometown. Of course, the Knicks hit those 11 3-pointers in that victory all the way back on New Year's Eve. But forgotten amid all this was that this was Dylan Harper's first game back in the tri-state area. Remember, he's a Jersey guy, went to Rutgers. His first game back in the tri-state area since coming into the league, and he played very well. 12 points, 7 assists, doing everything he needed to do. Presumably, a great week for him because, he's got the Nets and then, of course, the Knicks back to back. So I'm sure all of his, people in attendance, well taken care of, getting a couple games out of it. But I was going to ask, do you remember your first game as, I guess, a visiting opponent in San Antonio?
Yeah, it was about 50 tickets. Yeah.
That was going to kind of be my next question for, I guess, more so on the Harper side of things, because Champagnie's been around a bit. Is it a struggle like that for a 19-year-old kid to balance and not get overzealous, overly ambitious?
Well, yeah, year one, yeah. So what I would do is I'd put my mom in charge, and I would just leave her 20 tickets, 25 tickets. I'll find out after the game who's there. If you start going through trying to figure out who's going to be there, you got your high school coach, your elementary coach, your science teacher, your English teacher, because athletes, you got to help you get through school too. Now they deserve a ticket. Yeah, and so when you go through all that and you start going and trying to concentrate on a game, and you know exactly who's there, yeah, it can mess with your mind. If you want me to be honest with you, so. If you just do like I did and a lot of players do it, just leave, a lot of tickets, let her handle the rest of that, and you go from there. But yeah, it takes a year to realize that. And then, once you do that, then you can just go in and concentrate on the game.
I'm sure it was not a very difficult to be had in the Barclays Center tonight. I would not be surprised come Sunday at the Garden. Those tickets are a little bit more scarce to come by for a Rook. It might be.
It won't be 50 people, Casey.
It would not be.
No. No. Hey, listen. No. I've had to do that in that place. Now 4. That's it.
I was going to say it might just be mom and dad, and they're not going to put Ron.
Yeah.
Ron ain't sitting next to Spike Lee. I could promise you that now on Sunday. Not going to be doing.
Yeah, because it's funny because the New York people, obviously that's for the celebrities, right?
Right.
But they'll try and get you like, what do you want, second, third row? You're like, no. No.
The upcharge, the upsell. Once they plant, that's what they're doing. Once they plant the seed in your head, you're like, you know what? Do I have to drop 10? Do I want to drop 10 grand on Seats 5 rows from the floor, Madison Square Garden. No, but when am I ever going to get this opportunity again? And that's where they get you. Yeah, we'll go back to MSG coming up in a little bit because I had another question, another thought I wanted to get from you. Third straight game where Victor has not shot particularly well. 6 of 16, 3 of 12 the other day, yesterday in Toronto, and then tonight 3 of 9. Third straight game hasn't really gotten into much of a flow, and each of those teams have been pretty physical between tonight. I know Nick Claxton is always giving him trouble. He knocked him on his backside a few times. Jakob Poeltl yesterday, and of course Detroit being Detroit. Anything cautionary you're seeing over this little offensive rut from him?
No, just what I like is, Mitch is continuing to give him touches. And basically when you see that, you're letting the player figure it out. All right. So he's got, so many guys that are playing at a high level right now. And since the All-Star break, really, that he can have those deals because, remember now we're talking about somebody that's going to be the face of the franchise, not only the face of the franchise, but the face of the league. So coming off the All-Star break, it's been a little slow. Yes, the physicality, but you got to remember, with him being in Austin, the appearance effect. He's got appearances that he has to make, being the face of the franchise. They're in New York. I'm sure he has, people there. So he's got some stuff on his mind. But to answer your question, I'm not worried about him because we all know how Victor is. And we know he's getting geared up for the Knicks. So I feel he's going to have a big game and get out of it.
Yeah, a little bit of a not red flag. What's one step below a red flag? I don't know.
Not sure.
Slight alarm. Little bit of a cautionary feel. Maybe that's it. You get the idea of what I'm going for. It might just be PTSD a little bit because of what happened last year after the All-Star break, where we saw him winding down, and of course it was a different circumstance, getting diagnosed with the blood clot over the All-Star break into the second half of the season. And then his rookie year on the other side of the All-Star break, he wasn't particularly great as well. So this is the third straight year, with the exception of the Austin games. Now that I say that, the second Austin game he played really well too. The first one not bad. I mean, the Phoenix one was over, so you take that with a little bit of a grain of salt. His night of work was done in 20 minutes or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. So I mean, a slight eye open, if you will. I'm with you. I'm not overly concerned, but when very much revisionist history, when you look back at it, you're like, okay, 2 years in a row he struggled on the other side of the All-Star break. We'll see, because his old buddy Mitchell Robinson, who was always giving him fits his entire 3 years in the league, that's what awaits on Sunday, and we'll get a better idea of things. So you know what? I know that's what you and I want to talk about. Get little brother Nets out of the way and now focus on the big dogs that reside in MSG. So coming up on the other side of the break, we'll do exactly that, as the Spurs tonight, they make it 11 straight. They go perfect for the month of February for the third time in franchise history. They have a month where they go undefeated, and that win streak, that 11-game win streak, again, the longest, like it was yesterday, since the 15-16 season, I should say, just a few years back. But before we turn our focus to the Mecca, let's have a conversation about some of our friends who help in putting this program on the air. And the friends over there, we got it, 5 Hour Energy, always keeping us upbeat, always keeping us going, because with 18 different flavors you get to choose from, including new options like confetti craze, fruity rainbow, cotton candy, there's something for everyone. That confetti craze that I mentioned, yeah, that's the new one, kind of like a birthday cake-ish type deal. And then they got them for, I don't want to say the mundane type because we're talking about an energy shot beverage here, but you like the cherries, the pomegranates, that type. That's what you're going for. So find your new favorite flavor with 5 Hour Energy shots, of course, available online at 5hourenergy.com or at Amazon. Get all hopped up and then head on over to the game with Game Time. Yeah, there's nothing better than being in an NBA arena. There's nothing better than being in the Frost Bank Center, the crowd, the energy, the moment, especially when the team is winning a whole bunch of basketball games like they're doing right now. But getting the actual ticket, much like it's going to be Sunday at the Garden, not always simple, but that's why for the East Coast crowd who's checking in, you're going to want to use the Game Time app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. It puts the advantage right back where it belongs, and that's with you, the consumer. And they got everything. They got a whole bunch of cool things that they do exactly in that, because it gives you alerts, that ticket that you're keeping an eye on. They'll send you that. They tell you what you're paying immediately, so no upfront fees. So take all the guesswork out of that. Highly recommend it. I've used it already. Bought seats for Miami a few weeks back. Use code locked on for $20 off on your first purchase. LOCKEDON for $20 off, as opposed to Locked On NBA. Download the Game Time app today, and remember, it's gametime.co as opposed to gametime.com. And finally, let's talk about making lives a little bit easier for the business crowd out there, because as you know, this time of year, you're heading towards the end of the month. You got deadlines to meet, and that job that you're hoping to fill, it's just sitting there, and you're not getting the right candidates. Indeed Sponsor Jobs helps you reach people who actually fit, and we forget the basics sometimes: skills, experience, location. Just get what you want, right? And check this out. In the stats that I'm about to hit you with, in the minute or so we've been talking, companies have made 27 hires on Indeed. So spend less time searching, more time actually interviewing candidates who check all of the boxes. $75 off, a $75 sponsor job credit if you listen to us, and that premium job status you want, they'll bump it up to you for premium as well. Indeed.com/podcast, where you're heading to. Be sure to head that direction and support our show. And as always, terms and conditions do apply. Spurs get to spend a weekend in New York City celebrating an 11-game win streak, celebrating a perfect February as the calendar flips to the month of March. But Sunday, of course, back to business against the New York Knicks, a team that technically they've gone 1-0 against in the season from a record standpoint. From the actual looking at it, from what we all see with the naked eye, we know that it's 1-1, because that was the rematch of the NBA Cup, or what it will be, one that went to the Knicks. They had a great response, the Spurs did, when they met on New Year's Eve back in San Antonio. Again, that was the big Julian Champagnie game. They came back from 19 down. He hits 11 threes, and the Spurs win a thriller on New Year's Eve. This weekend, a Knicks team that has been a little bit up and down since then. Over their past 16 games, though, they've been one of the best defensive teams in the league from a defensive efficiency standpoint and an overall net rating standpoint. They lost to Cleveland the other day. So I say one of, because they went into that Cleveland game with the best in both of those stats over their past 15, a stretch that they went 12-3. This is the third time we're seeing this matchup. This is the third time that we're excited to see this matchup. A Sunday matinee, it writes itself. What are you looking for this weekend? Something that we maybe have not seen the first couple of meetings.
Well, you have your a couple of days in New York, so you don't have to travel far. The biggest thing is make sure that practice will be held around that noon time. Have guys a couple of days before, day before, whatever it is. Get used to that, because if you look at it, the Knicks have played more games at 12 than San Antonio has. So it's a different environment. You run in there, you run in the Garden, you're playing the Knicks. They can jump out on you, get up 20 just because you're playing way earlier in the day than you're normal. So they'll take a couple of days to get used to everything that's going on. But as long as you have balance, and the Spurs have great balance right now as far as scoring the basketball, defensively, everybody's locked in. As long as they continue to do that, it's going to be a great matchup and a great game. It's just going to be a great basketball game on Sunday.
I'm convinced that Victor, he doesn't hate the Knicks like the level of hate he has for Chet Holmgren and the Oklahoma City Thunder, but I don't think he likes the New York Knicks. And I think this pivoted all the way back to his rookie season, where he bombed at MSG in his first game. They got blown out, and the crowd was chanting overrated. So that was the first meeting. The second meeting, he goes 40-20, and Brunson goes for 60, and Spurs ultimately win the game in overtime. Then last year in Christmas, he has a monster game, but Bridges goes off and one-ups him. And then this year, the first two that they've had, that first game, the Cup game, the Cup championship, he played lousy. And then when they played on New Year's Eve, I know he got hurt down the stretch, but I think, what do you have, like 31 and 19 minutes or something like that? So, I mean, the evidence is out there. Vic gets ready for this team. I am still of the belief that the Knicks are going to win the Eastern Conference. Maybe it's because of the eye test of the actual teams that I've seen. I think the Knicks are the best team. I think they're one of these teams. And I wanted to ask you about this because you've been on a lot of winning teams. And the Knicks, obviously, they haven't had the championship glory in this Brunson era, any era, for many of years now. But it feels like to me like this is a team that is just waiting to go to April and getting there. Do veteran teams tend to do that, where they, I don't want to say sleepwalk through the season, but they know at the end of the day, it's like, all right, as long as we're healthy, we're good. We don't care where we're playing. Detroit can beat up on us, whatever, but you still got something to prove against us in the postseason. They beat Detroit last year. They beat Boston last year. They beat Cleveland a couple years ago. So have you, like, in your time, I guess, being on winning teams, whether it's San Antonio or elsewhere, have you come across kind of veteran squads like that who have a little bit of that kind of energy?
Well, yeah, all my years of San Antonio, it was like that, just because of how good, the organization was. But once I left and went to other ones, Cleveland, we had a lot of veteran players there. You could sense that at times. It was funny because we had guys like Eric Snow and Daniel Marshall and Ira Newble, guys like that. And we'd get down in the fourth quarter and, we're down 8, 12, whatever. And they're, LeBron's coming to the bench and they're just like, all right, big fella, go ahead and win the game. And a lot of times he'd go out there and have 20 or whatever it was. So, but I've been on teams also where you couldn't do that because we were young and you didn't have that, kind of leniency to, go out there and play like that. We had to play hard every game just to be in the game. So, yeah, to answer your question, when I was with San Antonio, yeah, you find yourself doing that when you know that you're just better than a lot of teams and you go out there and you're like, well, yeah, we'll play better come April.
And I think now that the Giannis thing has passed them, at least for this season, who knows what the summer looks like. I think that was kind of a thing that was floating around. And since that point, Karl-Anthony Towns has actually played a lot better since the trade deadline. I think that was kind of maybe one of the things that was it more so than probably the end result on the court. But I mean, that's why I ask these questions, because I feel like that very frequently happens. And who knows? I like to be of the belief that would be a NBA Finals preview, because I love the idea of seeing Victor play in a spotlight in New York City, and something like that would just be, and obviously it'd be very fitting given how Tim Duncan won his first championship too.
So you like New York over Detroit in a 7-game series?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Because
you like to write things down for me. I'm writing that down.
Well, yeah, and I could go more on this, but I'm one of these guys who views them, and I just think they're exactly what you were saying. I think they're a veteran team. They've been close past few years. The Pacers got the better of them, and understandably so. I still think, for me, Knicks, Celtics with a healthy Tatum, Detroit. I don't buy Cleveland. That's the way I see it shaking out.
Okay.
We'll find out. You wrote it down, so now I'm going to get in trouble if the Knicks get bumped out in the first round. I know who's going to be on that. Hey, I know a guy who's pumped up to play in New York one time, many of times. It's Brooklyn's own again showing up tonight.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
All right. I was going to say Devin Vassell. No, not Devin Vassell. No. I was going to, past two nights. He played very well. Not tonight. He played okay tonight. Julian Champagnie, the local guy. Another 20-plus point performance against a hometown team and doing what he does.
Hey, it looked good coming off his hand tonight. I mean, and that's what you do. You're back home. But very comfortable for him. Congratulations to him. I mean, he was cooking 26 on the night. You'll take that all the time.
Can't complain about it, especially when the team keeps winning basketball games. just like they're doing tonight. We, of course, will be back on Sunday. We will be back at the conclusion of that nationally televised matinee, Knicks and Spurs, right here on the Spurs Postcast on Locked On Spurs. Don't want to miss out on that. Don't want to miss out on Jeff. Of course, he's got you covered with the title pod bright and early, just like he does every Monday through Friday. Shout out to you guys. You've been enjoying this, or I like to think you were enjoying this. We had a good turnout tonight. Appreciate the engagement, and only gets that much more fun the more the team keeps on winning. The Spurs, they go perfect in February. 11th consecutive victory as the rodeo road trip continues this weekend in New York. 7 for 7 so far. Pretty good stuff. So good place to leave it on a Thursday night. To that which we sign off. For NBA champion Devin Brown, I'm Casey Viera. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday and into the weekend, and we'll talk to you guys again on Sunday.